Bene's Bloody Bits.
Welcome, everybody, to a retrospective on the entire Sleepaway Camp franchise with a very special guest, Aaron Pynn. As you can see by his banner, Cult of Cinema. How you doing, Aaron?
I am good. We are talking about one of my favorite franchises tonight, so this is kind of cool.
Well, you had me on your channel about a month ago, and I threw out there to you, hey, let's do a retrospective. And the first thing out of your mouth was this series. So we all know about Sleepaway Camp. The original film came out in 1983, obviously cashing in on Friday the 13th and its popularity, but the movie had a little bit of a twist to it. For me, every Friday, I was a movie junkie even as a young age. I would go into every Friday, I go into the weekend section of my local newspaper and look at all the ads for the new films. And I remember vividly Sleepaway Camp with the knife going through the shoe, with the letter in the back, you know, dear mom and dad, and all that. But I didn't see the film probably till definitely cable a year or two later. Yeah, I didn't see it in the theaters. I've seen none of those films in the theaters. But I remember liking it, but not loving it. What are your thoughts? When did you first see it? How did it hit you?
Well, one of the neat things to say, but hi, Malcolm, is that for me, I did the same thing that you did. So this is kind of cool because I thought I was the only person who did this. I would get the newspapers and I would take those like posters out. I actually had a scrapbook of them.
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp was one of them. Sleepaway Camp and Birthday and Me were two like big ones for me. I saw it on VHS initially. I didn't see it in the theater. I don't know if 2 or 3 went wide when it came to theater, but we'll get to those. But when I initially saw it, I knew nothing. Obviously, I knew nothing about it. I went in like thinking, okay, this is a Friday the 13th type of film, which it kind of was. Like most people, I didn't know Robert Hiltzig was because this was his first film, and I guess I was around the same age as the people in the film because they actually cast of age people, like kids, in the film rather than having like people that look like adults that don't look like kids but are playing kids. So that made for an interesting thing. I was in love with Melissa Rose, and I had a semi crush on Judy as well. The mean girl in the film, the girl that doesn't actually die, but looks like she dies in the movie. But when I initially saw it, I was the ending. Spoiler alert for a movie from 1983. The ending shocked me, and in the best possible way. It's one of those things that you don't see coming. But to be fair with Sleepaway Camp, unlike Friday the 13th, the clues are there. In Friday the 13th, it's a mystery you can't guess because you never see Pamela Voorhees before she's announced on screen. With Sleepaway Camp, the opening, the flashbacks, the aunt that looks like she just walked out of a John Waters film is amazing. And her scene is just so insane. And her delivery is like total camp. But I love the kills in this movie. I think this movie made it really big initially because the kills were really, really good, really inventive, and the ending was incredible. I like the fact that the cast people of age, though it made it a little bit awkward when they did the skinny dipping scene because in some places I heard that had to be taken out because they weren't they were like 15, 16 years old, right? So that was kind of weird scene. Anchor Bay actually had it taken out of their initial run. So if you've got the Anchor Bay release, there's a couple scenes that are missing from the Anchor Bay one that's put back into the this right here. I'm a big fan. So I utterly fell in love with the film, fell in love with the cast. It was weird because we're talking about, and do you mind if I give away a twist?
It's a 41-year-old movie. Go.
Okay, so Angela, at the beginning of the film, there is a guy and his 2 kids, and they are canoeing, kayaking. They're in the water, And this speedboat comes along, causes an accident. The dad dies. One of the kids die. There's a little boy and a little girl. At the end of the film, we find out that this girl we've been following all the way through, Angela Baker, is not actually Angela Baker. She was the boy lived, but the aunt already had a boy. So she forced the boy to be a girl because she wanted one of each. And for the longest time, I think this was a bit of a sticking point for, you know, for the LGBT community and stuff like that. Um, but it's changed over the years. The reasoning for that is basically because it's not so much, I don't think it is anyway, and like, but an anti like film as much as it is dealing with people that are stuck being something they don't want to be. Like this is like forced into like a gender that you want to be, and that's what I see when it comes to like that. When it comes to that aspect, because we really do have to kind of like touch on that. And remember, that's kind of a almost sort of, he was in film school when he was making this, when he thought of this film. He had the beginning, he had the ending. All the rest of it was put in between. So we're going with kind of an amateur filmmaker making his first film with a lot of heady topics. So sometimes that can get, waylaid.
Well, I think it's important for people to remember this is 1983. So there transgender people have been around for the longest time, but I don't think it was on the lips of most, at least American people at the time. Now, this is obviously forced. Somebody who, born a boy, it was forced upon it. But I think that's really what caught people off guard was, I mean, if you watch it as an adult, even if you've never seen it, the clues are there. But imagine being in your early teens or teenager in that, 84, 85, whenever you first saw it, those things go right over your head. They don't click. And then you get to that ending, and I really feel like that's what makes the movie memorable. Yes, Felissa Rose is good. The creative kills are fun. But if you take away that humdinger, emphasis on ding of an ending, I don't know it goes on to be the cult classic that a lot of people feel that it is. I think that was really important and way ahead of its time.
It is crazy how insane the film is because this is 1983. So for those that are watching this that aren't as old as us, or especially as old as me, so although Halloween came out in 78, like slasher movies didn't really kind of become their own until like around 1981, 1982. It's the golden era of slashers, right? So 1983, we've gotten into like a whole bunch of like Friday 13th clones, Halloween clones, stuff like that. So one of the neat things about this one is, although it is very much like I gotta move my cat down, very much like the kind of very much like Friday 13th. It's unique. It's different. We've got a troll in here tonight. I know.
I got it.
But
they're gone.
Yeah, I had to do that on my channel too, by the way, for that.
They're gone.
But no, I love the way that it's done. I love the aspects behind the film. But again, a lot of these are non-actors. Like these people were not cast. These were not actors that were cast. I'm from Canada. There was a show in Canada back in the day, like when I was a kid, called Degrassi. Kids at Degrassi Junior High, Degrassi High. They didn't cast actors; they cast non-actors, and to make the kids seem more real. And they did that for this one here too. And sometimes it's really, really obvious that they've cast non-actors in this film. Like really, really obvious, because some of the scenes you're like, oh man. One thing I do have to shout out at French is makeup effect work, incredible. That sequence with the kind of creepy molesty dude,
Oh, the guy that got put in the boiling water?
Yeah, like those.
Well, he
like
deserved what he got. He deserved what he got, for sure.
He should have been worse, man. He should have been killed. He got off easy.
Yeah.
But like wonderful effects. With like it's oozing, it's pussing, it's really, really well done effects. But yeah, it's I've always enjoyed it, but that being said, I do know the negatives of the film as well. It can be for a modern audience, it doesn't always work as well. And if somebody was in the LGBTQ community didn't like it or were offended by it, I get it. So I understand both sides of it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the first film anyway.
What about the it kind of plays like a little bit like Meatballs, right? As a slasher film. You have this the camp, the kids, the friction, the mean girl attitude that the film has with the girls going back and forth, and the guys playing what was it, baseball or whatever, and like one kid goes, "Eat shit and die," and the other kid goes, "Eat shit and live." And so
One-
that's just the way we talked back then. That was totally normal for the time.
It is. You're right though. That is a fantastic analogy because Meatballs, again, another Canadian film. Really, Bill Murray. But it's a really great analogy because this is very Meatballs-esque in the way that the kids are portrayed. The kids are realistic, and sometimes that can be a little odd because we're not used to seeing kids playing kids. We're used to seeing 20-year-olds playing kids, and especially around that time period. Just look at any of the movies, like at Friday the 13th. Look at the like any of the slashes come out of that time period where they're supposed to be younger. They never are. So this is, it takes you off guard for a second. You're like, oh, so we're really getting this? You wouldn't get to see kids in Friday the 13th, guys, until part 6. Yeah, part 6.
I agree. They did. I didn't even notice that, but you're right. Usually they cast like 28-year-olds to be 18-year-olds, and they got some crow's feet on their eyes and just things that you're not going to have when you're your late teens and early 20s. So give them credit for actually casting it. I did not know about the removal of scenes from the Anchor Bay DVDs, which I used to own, to the Scream Factory Blu-rays. So they brought it back in for the Blu-rays.
Yeah. Anchor Bay said at the time that it was an accident. It was just a print that they were given. But a lot of people were like, those specific scenes, though. So if it was just a print they were given, I'm guessing that it was a print from a place that just didn't like. Professor Rose is a beautiful lady, actually. She grew up to be an amazingly gorgeous woman. And we'll talk about her again, actually. And,
Yeah, unfortunately. So we both feel like it's, a solid slasher in the wake of, obviously 1978 to 1983 is the golden age of horror or gore and slasher films. So this was kind of on the tail end of it. And then we have a few years later, 5 years later, until we get to my favorite of the series, which is Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. Angela is recast by Pamela Springsteen, sister of the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. It shouldn't work, but yet it does. And I recently watched 2 and 3 with both Pamela in them. And I don't miss Felissa, to be honest with you. I think it works in the universe of Sleepaway Camp. 2 is my favorite. It's the body count, 19 people. The fact that Angela comes back, by the way, she has surgery, at least it's spoken of, that she's a full-on girl now.
Yeah.
She gets her thing taken off, and she's a counselor, and I think that works to its advantage because nobody sees her coming, and it's easier for her to pick off people, and I think that's why in an 80-minute running time, they kill almost 20 people, and every way is a little bit different than the one before. It's easily my favorite of the series. What about you?
This is my favorite. And here's the thing. I did not see Sleepaway Camp 2 because of Sleepaway Camp. Not at all. Back in the 80s, when I was growing up, one of the big things for teenagers, especially, were soap operas. To the point where the soap operas, like All My Children, Children's Hospital, would actually specifically have storylines with, quote unquote teens in the summer months to get people to watch. So 2 of the big actors in this movie here are from soap operas. One in specific was one of my favorites. So Brian Patrick Clark is in this movie, and he was Grant Putnam, also Grant Andrews, because they were twins, in General Hospital. Another neat thing is I'm epileptic. One of the pills that I take is phenobarbital. In his storyline on General Hospital, when he's a bad guy, he's slipping phenobarbital into his wife's drink so that she can knock out and forget things while he goes off and does secret spy stuff. So when I found out that Brian Patrick Clark was in this movie, and I found out that Pamela Springsteen, because I knew Pamela Springsteen, I didn't put it together as a kid that, Bruce Springsteen. All I knew was, hey, that's the girl that was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I'm a massive fan of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And she was one of the cheerleader girls in that film. She didn't have a big part, but she kind of stood out to me. I really had a huge thing for Pamela Springsteen. This movie is really cool. We got Renee Estevez in this one, who would go on to be Intruder, which is another fantastic film. Everybody's named after the Brat Pack, which had to be a little bit awkward for Renee Estevez because she's a sister to Helio and Charlie. Yeah, she's Bruce's sister, man. She's a really good
Get with it, Malcolm. Come on. We already said that. Just fucking with you, Malcolm.
I love this movie. I think that Pamela Springsteen just takes it to a different level. Felissa Rose tried out for this role and didn't get the part.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah. So this was Robert Hiltzig tried to make another film. He wasn't able to do it. So Michael A. Simpson, he sold rights to Michael A. Simpson for a bit. He was not happy with it, by the way, but we'll get into that later. So Michael A. Simpson gets the rights and he films Sleepaway Camp 2 and Sleepaway Camp 3, which we're going to talk about after, back to back. So these two movies are filmed back to back. 2 is by far and large, just everything's fantastic about number 2. Pamela Springsteen, I'm a Happy Camper. When you hear it, it will get stuck in your head.
It's stuck in my head right now from just watching it this weekend.
The dude from James Bond movies, Russian guy, is the camp counselor guy. I'm talking. He's the head camp counselor.
Can we talk about? I saw 3 of the best mullets this side of MacGyver and Patrick Swayze.
That's Brian Patrick Clark, man. One of those.
There was at least 3 mullets in there that were killer. That I forgot that was popular. Besides women wearing the Aquanet and stuff, the guys in the mullets too. They're all over the place in this movie.
It's cool. I mean, there's these twins, I think are they twins? They're sisters, like the Stone sisters.
They get burned to death, right?
Yeah, I think at least one of them turned out to be younger than they thought they were when she was cast. So there's supposed to be like a nude scene that couldn't be, that had to take out. So they had to kill one off. That's why you see one get killed off before the other. I spent a lot of time watching these movies over the years, guys.
True.
I love I love kills in this film. They're just so good. As good as the kills from the first one, this takes up to another level. Well, the acting.
And they're all so different. And I do like how it's kind of like a little bit meta, where there's a character that makes the Freddy, has the Freddy hat and the makeup and the claw, and the other guy's got the Jason mask, which actually ends up in the water in part 3. And then he has the machete.
Yeah.
There's no downtime in the film. The running time is perfect of its era, 80, 90 minutes. When you have that many kills, there's no time to breathe, but in a good way. And Pamela plays it with she's having a good time, which is exactly what you want it to be. Some people will call it a comedy horror film. I think the horror comes first, but the comedy is definitely there. It's hard to manage both, but I think 2 in particular nails the tone. What's your favorite kill, if you had to pick one?
Oh, I like the. I don't know.
Can I pick one real quick while you're thinking of yours? The girl that gets thrown into the shitter, and she gets the piss and poop, and then also there's leeches, and then Pamela gets the wood stick and just kind of pushes her down into the toilet even more. Oof, that one's rough.
That was a good kill. I think for me, it's to say no to drugs. I love the way that's done. I do like the ending one where we has the quote unquote heroes, the female and the guy in the cabin, and the way she kills it's just didn't expect it. But because he's a nice guy, you think she's not going to do it, because overall, in the film, especially in the one thing we didn't mention in the first one is that overall, she kills mostly people that deserve to be killed. Maybe not those little kids, but for the rest of the people, it's people that deserve to be killed.
She killed
And
the peeping toms. How dare she kill the peeping toms, which gave us so much good nudity throughout the film.
this is the ones that are named after, was it Charlie and Amelia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I absolutely adored Pamela Springsteen's amazing. I feel so sad. Like I don't know what happened on these films that she doesn't never wants to talk about them, but she never wants to talk about them. Like apparently she really won't acknowledge the films in her career anymore. Maybe it's just because she's gone on to become like and do something else. She's a photographer. She wants to look forward, not look back. Maybe that's it. Um, but she never, she never wants to discuss the films. Sadly,
That would
uh,
explain why she's never been on the extra features of any of the disc, right? She just doesn't want to talk about it.
no, she won't. She won't talk about it. If people go up to her, she politely declines.
Well, that would, I was tempted. I found her on Instagram, and I do see she's a very successful photographer, and I was tempted, but if she said no to everybody else, she's going to say no to me. That's fine. I don't have to have the movies that I enjoy, the people that made them don't have to love them. Most of
Yeah.
them don't like them. Even the ones that actually sit down and talk about it, they only did it because they were paid a little bit of money, right? On these discs that we all watch. So I'm long over they have to like it because I liked it. You know what? Who knows what was going on in their life at the time,
I think if anything, give her credit for like having like the kind of the fortitude to say, okay, that was part of my life. I don't want to talk about it anymore, rather than just coming back for the money, which some people would do. She decided, okay, that was good. I did that. I've moved on. But that doesn't mean we have because Pamela Springsteen is so good. She is pitch perfect in this. The opening of the film where they're telling it like a campfire tale, like the story of like of Angela Baker, and when she comes and she takes the girl back, ah, it so sweet, such a sweet sequence. Uh,
No, it's easily my favorite. It's nothing's ever going to top it if they ever make another one or whatever. It's just it's a product of its era. 80s films didn't try to look like 80s films. They just the way people dressed, the way they acted, that's just, the way it was, and you can't go back to it. But you kind of pop in your movie and you go down this, roller coaster ride of memories, and you can place where you were at the time these films came out, when you first watched them. But this one just seemed to have fun. It was the right script. New director actually didn't make it worse. Michael Simpson, I think, did a great job. The
yeah,
makeup effects, Bill Johnson, it just look, none of it lingers. The gore doesn't linger. I wish it would linger a little bit longer. It doesn't, it shows it, but then it kind of moves on. But you still get so much of it that you can't complain.
I think that for me, one thing's a lot. Yeah, part three starts with the garbage truck, Teenage Wasteland. Good song too, by the way. We'll get to the bad song when we get to Return to Sleepaway Camp. But Teenage Wasteland, great song. But part two, I think just it does it. Everything just it mixes perfectly. Like you mentioned, those kids that dress up. It's like summer camp. Everybody loves the movies. Well, summer school, right? Because you have the guys that like horror movie in the movie Summer School, and for a lot of people, like, oh man, that's a comedy with a horror connection, and people talk about Summer School all the time because these guys, the like horror in the movie Summer School, and we get this like these two kids that are like dressed up like with the Freddy makeup, and they got the Jason mask, and they kind of got like the Leatherface aspect to it as well.
That's true.
Actually, in the one of the initial covers, that's from the slasher classics collection for the film. Obviously, this is not Angela Baker; it's just a model. But you can see the part two. They had like a
You're
model.
right, though. They brought in a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. They were totally being self-aware of the time that this film was made and what was
It was
popular.
it was incredibly well done. Like for those that this is the cover for the original, like the one that to mention, and I have them all because I'm a freak for these films, guys. And of course, you can see right there, same one for the two. I'll share part 3 afterwards. But yeah, part 2 is by far and large. And we're going to rank these later, so I'm not going to say which is my favorite. But
Even
my
though I
pick.
kind of already said which one my favorite was, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah,
I just, yeah.
I get excited talking this movie. I babble a bit, so I do apologize.
No. We're here to talk about the Sleepaway Camp series, so we could talk about 2 as long as we want. We still have a few more to go to, but it's too much fun, you know. I mean, nothing's missing. New director, new
Camp,
Angela, new
Camp New
camp,
Horizons, right? Camp New
Camp
Horizons.
New Horizons from Camp. I think Camp Arawak was down the ways a little bit. It wasn't. It was close by, and they have the story of, you know,
Yeah,
and you know, they kind of suspect things, but not really. They're kind of in their own world, and that's kind of how you lived. So for
it,
people that know, that's the way we lived in the pre-internet, pre-digital age. We weren't really preoccupied other than what was going on in the moment. There wasn't anything to distract us, especially at camp. There's no cell phones then. There's no video games. There's video games around, but not out there in the woods. So literally you lived in that moment that you were at. You had fun. You went and played in the lake. You went in. Everybody's been to camp before, but us older guys, that's actually the way it was and makes it so believable.
I wanted to go to camp so bad when I was a kid, but I raised my grandparents. They were super like, oh no, you have epilepsy. What if you forget your medication? So it was a camp called Kill Devil. So I knew all the camp songs and everything, but I could never go. But me and my friends would go camping because we lived close to campgrounds. But I always wanted to go camping. What I love about this movie, I have to mention this before you go on, is how she like is killing off people left and right, and she's going back saying, "Oh, I had to send them home." And finally, she gets fired because she sent home too many people. Like, there's almost nobody at the camp anymore, Angela.
Well, and, you know, Angela doesn't just go after like the kids for being, you know, acting up. I mean, a hitchhiker. I mean, she hitchhikes. The lady's smoking in the car and won't roll down the window, and she kills her too. I mean, she doesn't mess around. Like, you know, she's a equal opportunity killer that, you know, she gets away with it, right? We know she survives. And then I forgot I hadn't watched Teenage Wasteland in so long that I kind of forgot why she had the wig on. And I was like, oh, duh. She literally tracks down this girl who's going to camp, has that exact same look and hairstyle, and she's in a trash truck, runs her over, throws her in the back, you know, crushes her, and then as the truck drives away, the graffiti on the wall, Angela is back, is one of the great openings. I just thought that was totally out of left field but appropriate for these films.
It is so good. So we're moving on to part 3.
We're going to move on to Teenage Wasteland. Yeah. So do you like how they obviously bringing back Angela, bringing back Pamela, how they got her back into camp where they feel like she couldn't be a counselor. She had to be, you know, one of the kids, even though she obviously looks older, but they do address that in the film that you look older.
I'm going to be honest. When I first saw Teenage Wasteland, I wasn't a fan. First time I watched it. And I was like, oh, this is different. Like, it's not, I feel like they've moved away from what part 2 did so well until I watched it again. And there's some weird takes in part 3. One amazing song is totally metal. Love the song. Angela, the way she comes back, I love the sequence where there's that reporter, and she's basically, "Oh, you look older than the rest." Yeah, I've had a hard life.
But that's awesome that that in a contemporary film, if they made it now, they would spend 15 minutes over explaining that shit. That film,
Yeah.
They talk about it as a joke, as a one-off, and then they move on. That's what I love about these retro films. They just didn't get bogged down in stuff that's not that big of a deal, really.
What hurt this thing, if anything hurt this film at all, it is the censors hurt this film a lot more than part 2 and part 1 and part 2. There was a lot more like that was censored out of this one right here. Got to say right away, Michael J. Pollard. Love that weirdness. That is Michael J. Pollard. So
that voice is very much like a David Sterling voice. Like when you hear it, like I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember his face. But when he talks, you absolutely remember him from movies or TV shows.
Well, he's a child actor. You're back in the early days of Star Trek and stuff like that. He was in like episodes of that. So he's got a a play-by belt buckle.
Even
And
though
so
he's not a playboy, he's the most unattractive dude in the whole series. Yet I like that they just lean into he's a stud. The young girl
yeah,
likes him somewhere for some reason.
I guess I'm gonna think it's because, well, Michael J. Pollard also, I'm a massive Superman fan, by the way. So in Superbad, the series, he played Mr. Mxyzptlk in like full like super comic costume, which is fantastic. Anyway, part three, for those who don't know, basically Angela has escaped after her reign of terror. Now there's this new camp, but this camp is different. It's run by these two people that obviously don't give a damn about camp or anything like that. What they want to do is take people that are rich and can pay money to go to camp, and people that can't pay money to go to camp, but they can get like kind of like government money from, and bring them together in a social experiment where like rich and like people like me, like street level people, kind of mixed together. It is wonderful comedic actors in this one right here. Uh, it's different. What I It subverts. We'll get to it in a little bit. Let's just say it subverts the final girl trope in the end, and I did not see that aspect coming, but I was very much impressed with that. Kills are much more tamer in this one right here because they were censored. But when they're on the screen, they're fairly well done. I do think that it was a bit of a waste with the one of the main leads in the second one, his dad, who was a cop, is in part three. And when she pretty much gets off some pretty quickly. As opposed, I expect him to get more of a death similar maybe to his son, because there's this big buildup to like, okay, he's the father of the last person really killed in part two, and the guy that's been kind of the heroic figure in the second one. And he's talking about like, if I could get my hands on Angela Baker, and what a it's horrible what she did, and she killed my son and all this stuff. And when he finally discovers it's in the kitchen when they're back at the camp, and it's pretty much like the scene just goes so fast. Like he's just gone. Hey, Jose, welcome, man.
So you're right, though. So we have a third counselor, but he's kind of there. Hey, my son got killed in unhappy campers. I'm going to find out what's going on here. And he kind of figures, the whole she doesn't look as young as everybody else. He kind of she's on the radar and stuff. And then he does kind of go out real quick with his own, with the gun, and he kind of gets taken down. But I do, going back to what you're saying about the two different camps of kids, right? The upper class and lower class
Yeah.
going to camp, kind of reminds me maybe the people that watch Ticks kind of did the same thing with, right, the Alfonso Ribeiro character, and you got a little bit of high class and lower class, and obviously they play into a lot of stereotypes, like the lower class guys have to be black, right, or brown, and the black guys got to be listening to rap music, right, and the Asian girls, the upper class are a little bit more well off, have to be the white kids, right? Total stereotype, but again, of the era, that's the way people were acting, and that's the way they cast, and it didn't make me cringe, but it definitely made me realize that film is definitely a product of its time, the way they cast it and stuff.
Yeah, there's like a couple there, like the guy that did the had the boombox.
Yeah.
He was totally unlike the character in real life. He was the farthest away of all the people cast in the film. He's the farthest away from the character. So he was not that. I like the fact that the I guess the lower class ones tend to be far and large, aside from like outwardly, they seem like they're more threatening at first. But as you get to know these kids, the the upper class kids, they're the dicks. They're the bad guys. To the point that, and I'll mention it now. The lead girl, the good girl, the final girl, um, she's a bit of a bitch.
Yeah.
You don't find out till right at the end of the film that she's totally been like there's this guy, and he's in a gang, but he's kind of a hard gold type guy, and he's, you got that ending where they got the kind of that romantic type, and oh yeah, no, hopefully I'll see you. And she's like, nah, well, I probably won't. You're, um, it's fun, but
Well, the good thing is the one girl, one of the blonde hair girls, drops the N word twice, but Angela gets her and actually makes the point of saying, "You're a bigot." She's the one that gets strapped up to the flagpole
yeah, I love
and
that
then
death actually.
dropped on her head. Now, going
That's
back to the cuts, I wonder what happened because you have Sleepaway Camp 2 comes out in 88, 3 in 89, 1 year apart. Why did they start cutting on 3 and not 2? I know MPAA and Jack Valente and that Tipper Gore and that religious right was really getting involved. And I know on the DVD that I had of 3, the death scenes were like as an extra feature, but they were never incorporated back in the film. They didn't even look that bad, but I'm assuming they didn't put them back for the Blu-ray either. They're just the side.
same thing.
Uh,
By the time 1989 came around, it wasn't just affecting like horror films and stuff. That was affecting Saturday morning TV as well. So when I was a kid, I grew up watching like stuff like Super Friends and Scooby Doo and all that stuff. That was all taken off the air, by the way. And all you got was a massive block of the Smurfs. Like Super Friends was gone, Lone Ranger was gone, Tarzan was gone. Just 2 hours of the Smurfs, and then we'll go into like a live action thing like Fame or something like that. Tipper Gore was a big like proponent again about like censorship at the time, whether it be TV or music or movies. And by 1989, it had really gone full force. So like, go look at these movies, look at those Stronger Kids and all this type of stuff. So it was an incredibly insane period for stuff like that. I graduated in 1989. This is when I'm going to college, and I I don't know. I still love the film. I don't think it's as good as part two.
it's not.
I
No.
I do think that when it works, it really, really works. But when it goes off the rails a bit, and it does a couple times, then you're kind of like, I don't feel that they had a solid enough story for us three that they did
I
with part
agree, Master Chaos. 2 and 3 are unsung gems. They really are. And I think part of it is 3 is obviously not as good because Angela has to be a camper. They break off into groups, and then she kills off one group, moves to the next group. So the surprise factor is not there. Where in 2, she's just a normal. She's a counselor, right? She's overseeing things. So the surprise factor, and also the MPAA cutting stuff that really wasn't that bad to begin with. It hurts the film, but we do get good TNA.
especially in the beginning.
You
That's
get
where
what I noticed is in 2 and 3 you get a lot of breasts, but not anything else. But I'm not complaining. But they kind of keep it to the boobs, not bush or butt. Which I'm kind of like I want it all. Give it
not
to
by
me. But so okay, so we both agree that 3 is fun. We do enjoy it. It's just after 2, it's like the 90s coming after the 80s. It kind of
it
butts
is.
the butsu.
We're about to get into that point where horror is a bit watered down, and it's got to go meta in order to save it. Um, and it's getting there. Like 3 like plays off of 2, and I just think it's that the fact that 2 is so strong and has such a strong cast. Uh, you know, Pamela Springsteen is obviously the key part to the part 2, but you've also got Renee Estevez. You've got like Brian Patrick Clark. You've got the guy that plays I can't remember his name. The guy that plays the Russian in like the James Bond films. Uh,
Also, the Asian girl her name is Jill Terashita. She was also in Night of the Demons.
yeah,
So she was
she's
kind
like,
of she was pretty
"You needed
popular
more
right back
scenes.
then.
You needed more scenes." That's what.
I she got pushed to the side because I actually met her at a screening of Night of the Demons at the New Beverly, probably 2009. Kevin Tenney was there and Jill was there, and I don't even think it clicked to me that she was in Sleepaway Camp 3 because it wasn't something I watched all the time, but I knew her from Night of the Demons. So really nice lady, still attractive. She doesn't have the high hair like she did in Sleepaway Camp 3, but she was very cool.
She's the she's she's the most gorgeous girl in part 3. 2, again, that's one of the things that bothered me is that people that I liked tend to be the people that got off first. Actually, Apollo gets off way sooner than I expected, but I'm guessing it was like cameo, like get a quick check for Michael J. Pollard because
Yeah.
he's gone pretty fast. And I really like his character, even though he's creepy as hell.
So now we're on to the unfinished film. I don't even know if it can. It's not really doesn't count. It's not canon, but Sleepaway Camp 4, The Survivor. For people back in the old days of DVD, Anchor Bay had put out a set of the first 3 films. It was your first glimpse at the 4th film, which was the company went bankrupt. Maybe they shot 5 or 10 minutes. They kind of cobbled together the death scenes from the first 3 films. People kind of like were stroking themselves over finally seeing it. I mean, do you even count it? It doesn't really fit
I
for
don't.
me.
I mean, Carrie Chambers is good for a little bit that she has, but you don't get a lot really much to go by. I will say that Carrie Chambers is the only good part of Survivor. For those who know, she plays Allison. Allison is Angela with amnesia, and it's a clip show. It's a 90-minute clip show. Um, I think Judy is a much stronger tie-in as opposed to this. But this one right here, there's not a lot that I can say about it. It's bad. The guy that plays the ranger, I didn't really, no, yeah, she carried like everybody else in that thing. Like for the little bit that is there, Chambers carried it. Like everything else was just, yeah. That's my thoughts on that one. I really didn't like that movie.
Yeah, it's I actually forgot about it until we started talking about recapping the series, and it's really I don't count it. It's if you're just cutting together footage of 3 films into a barely made film, and I guess for completionists, they want to own it or watch it and acknowledge it. I remember the time it came out and they got all excited. And it's like, well, that's not really the 4th film. And sadly, maybe the filmmakers should have taken a cue for that one and just let the series die, because right about 2008 or 9, people get excited because the original director, Robert Hiltzik, Felissa Rose, Jonathan Tiersten, they are coming back. So basically, in a way, they're kind of getting rid of part 2 and 3, and it's a direct sequel to the original called Return to Sleepaway Camp. And where do you want to start? What
Okay.
did you
Well,
think?
I was very excited when this was announced. I was a guy that used to go on sleepawaycampfilms.com all the time. It's because I'm a big fan. I got to give a quick shout out to that site because there was a short film called Judy, which is based on one of the main characters from the bad girl from the first film, who we think is killed because she gets a curling iron put in a place where curling irons are not supposed to go. But there's a short film, it's like 50 minutes long. I actually rewatched it this week, and I rewatched it right before this episode. It's not well acted, but basically, except for her, she's good. Karen Fields is good. Basically, she's become like an Angela type character, but she kills people that like Angela. She kills people that deserves it. So she tracks down this like deadbeat dad and his new wife, and pretty much like kills both of them, and then sends like new sneakers and money that he got from a job to there. So anyway, you can check it out online. It's like on YouTube. It's around 50 minutes long. Acting's not great, but just see Karen Fields again because it is the original actress that played Judy. That is good. Now Robert Hiltzig came back, and I said before we started, because me and Jason were talking, and I said there's an aspect of this that reminds me of Birdemic, and I didn't explain what I was talking about, but I'm going to explain it right now. If you watch Birdemic 1, 2, and 3, you're going to notice that it seems like with each passing film, he's learned less and less about making movies because it gets worse and worse as it goes through.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he's an auteur. Robert Hiltzig is the same. Is that I feel like he's lost, if anything, he's lost some of the stuff from part 1. I don't know if he's working with different people, if he had somebody that was looking at the script a bit better, because we're looking at a film that, there's some decent actors. And even in part 1, you got like James Earl Jones' dad, right? In part 1. But You get Isaac Hayes, poor Isaac Hayes. This is the last thing the dude did, I think. Plays the chef. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got, Vincent. What's it? Vincent Pastorelli?
Yeah, you have some, good
And so
guys, good
from
actors.
like good actors like in this. And this has to be the absolute worst lead in a film. Now, the lead character's name is Alan.
Oh,
And unlike Angela, also starts with A, who is pretty much being, bullied, Alan is as much a bully as he is a bullied person. Now, there's at times in the film where I think, does Alan have certain mental issues? But I can't excuse it because here's the thing. If that's the case, you have to, in some point in that film, like say something.
you have to
Because
rein him in. As a
yeah,
director, you have to rein him in.
because what we're seeing is this guy who's like, okay, he's just really annoying. So if they had said, okay, maybe Alan's, kind of on spectrum, or Alan's whatever, right? Like something, like to kind of make us feel for him. But this is a movie you don't like anybody. There's no likable characters in this film. The only likable characters, Johnson Thurston when he comes back for the few scenes that he's in, where pretty cool. Randy is back, still jacked. By the way, that's pretty cool. But Alan is the lead, and Alan
The problem is he's annoying. Everything he does, he screams or yells. And I think that autistic thing, that was probably just a cop out for just you have to rein in your actor and make him somewhat sympathetic. But every line he screams and yells, I don't think the film would have been great without him. But if you just take him out, he's the Jar Jar Binks of slasher films.
I like Jar Jar.
Absolutely useless, annoying every second he's on screen, and he's in most of the film. If you pull him out of the film, you got a watchable, still not the best in the series, but at least like I couldn't go back and watch this film even for the series retrospective because I know that I'd want to like scream at the screen every time this guy goes, he's just gobbling up screen time and you don't feel bad for him. I mean, he just yells. And that's the director. I don't know if he told him to be that way or if it was in the script, but you got to make him nice. And that movie is just overwhelming. And that guy, Alan, is just one of the worst.
I think that Hiltzig messed up with his direction of Alan big time. I think if he was trying to make him like autistic, that wasn't in there, but that's a slap in the face to people that actually are autistic because of what the character is. He's just a very annoying character, and his catchphrase, by the way, guys, like remember in the first one when Jason mentioned, eat shit and die. No, eat shit and live. What clever. Alan's catchphrase, which is said all throughout the film, way too much, is "your ass stinks," and he'll run away. That's it. That's his catch. That's the big catchphrase for this entire film.
No, this movie stinks. That's my catchphrase.
It does. I mean, and I don't think even if you recast Alan, no, it's still not good because the story it isn't well done. You've got to like the other characters too. You don't like the other characters. They're bullies on the other side, and so none of these guys are nice. Like nobody is likable. There's nobody to really kind of like to hang your hat on and say, okay, this is a character I can follow. You don't like Alan, but you don't like the most I get. The closer you get is sort of Alan's kind of stepbrother type character, but even he's a dick. So nobody is good in this film. Nobody does well. The ending. So spoiling this movie because I don't care about spoiling this movie for you guys.
It's from 2008. Spoil away. If you haven't watched it yet, you were never going to watch it.
We meet a cop at the beginning of the film.
Right. My name is Aaron. I am Culta Cinema.
Officer
I'm
Jared.
supposed to disguise my voice so you don't know I'm Angela under makeup, which is the worst, cruddiest Barney Fife looking dude in the world.
4 hours. She went in that makeup for 4 hours, and the second she's on the screen, automatically it's Felissa Rhodes. There's no doubt about it. I remember watching this. So I paid
4 hours for that shitty makeup?
4 hours.
Wow.
I paid full price. I was in Zellers, which is like a grocery store in Canada, and I found it. Like, I couldn't believe it. I found Return to Sleepaway Camp. I was so excited. It was on DVD. It was like full price. I picked up $20. Like, I'm there with my better half. Picked up. I go home. We've seen all the rest. So we sit down. We're like excited. We're gonna watch this one.
It's
Man,
not good.
the disappointment.
It's,
The disappointment.
I
So yeah.
mean, they didn't even have her rip off the makeup. If you remember, they show, the guy drops the thing to help him speak, and then just kind of cuts to Angela's face. They don't even show the makeup being torn off her, and it feels like the Phantom Menace, like it's a parody. I feel like this is a parody of the original film, where Phantom Menace feels like a parody of Star Wars. I know Star Wars fans aren't going to like that, and I love the series as a whole, but watching this was as painful as watching the Phantom Mess. I mean, this was a painful. Let's put it this way, Aaron. Remember Phantasm 5, Ravager, which I feel like it's Return to Sleepaway Camp. I wish it was never made. Didn't need to be made. Unwatchable. They kind of fit that same. I kind of forget it exists because it was so bad. But Return to Sleepaway Camp, you said the website, or the Sleepaway Camp website, I heard they had a lot to do with the reason this film got made, was they were kind of pushing Robert to do another one.
Yeah, like they were obviously massive fans of the franchise. Good on them for going out and trying to get that done. Like, they had faith. Obviously, that faith wasn't like, because this wasn't supposed to stop here. By the way, there was supposed to be more. It got stopped pretty quick once this came out, though.
They kind of killed it, yeah.
Yeah, but Robert Hiltzik had planned more of these films, and I don't know how, but he hated part 2 and 3. So you're going to notice right away, guys, that in Return to Sleepaway Camp, part 2 and 3 don't exist.
Yeah.
He said he hated those two. They didn't do it right, and he was coming back to
show them how it's done.
Yes, exactly. That's literally what he said. He wanted to write the course, and he showed him all right. He showed him how not to make a sequel, and how to, like, take when I got this great legacy. I've got this wonderful first film. Sometimes that's you stop it. Charles Laughton knew, right? Charles Laughton made Night of the Hunter, one of the great films of all time. Directed that incredible film. Never had to make another film. Never had to direct anything else. If Robert Hiltzik had never directed Return to Sleepaway Camp, like, this would, and it's still well. Sleepaway Camp is really well done.
Well, he was a one-hit wonder who tried to follow it up with another top 40 hit, and it didn't work out so well for him.
Not at all. I mean, I'm trying to think of like a one-hit wonder to kind of compare it to. But even like the one-hit wonders are better than this. Return to Sleepaway Camp is atrocious. I watch it every once in a while to remind me of films I don't like. Now, that being said, I will give credit in one way to Return to Sleepaway Camp.
The kills are pretty good.
The kills are the best kill. Jumping on the bed with the nails.
They got that right. I do agree. But you're right, being atrocious. Alan and all the police officer running around looking like crap, it offsets the kills, but the kills are decent. There's a couple that look a little CG, but most of them look to be prosthetic, old school effects.
It was the kills, actually, the CG in the kills, that actually made the film take longer. And that didn't work out too well. But here's the thing. As bad as this movie is, as horrible as Return to Sleepaway Camp is, and it is not in any way a good film. Yeah, I'm not bored during Return to Sleepaway Camp. The worst thing a film can do to me, the biggest sin that you can have on a film, is if you bore me. If I am bored, then you failed. This film fails as a Sleepaway Camp sequel, especially when you put it up against 2 and 3. It fails when you put it up against Survive, for crying out loud. But it still has enough aspects to it that I'm like, okay, I can rewatch it. I've got films that I might never rewatch, or films that I'm like, okay, I can't come back to this.
As bad as it is for direct-to-video, but it's about 14 years old, you might compare it to direct-to-video of the last 5 years. Movies like Glass Eye, all those Wild Eye releasing kind of films, right? Like, and they'll go, oh my God, Return to Sleepaway Camp compared to those. I know it's comparing horse shit to dog shit, but you could actually rewatch it painfully. You went through it, but I know what you're saying. In
Yeah.
the last 5 to 10 years, the direct-to-video has, gotten the computer effects. They don't even try, and at least this film kind of had some retro, goodness to it. It's just we're comparing it to the prior 3 films that were much better done, and that's unfortunate that Robert thought this was a return to form. I'm gonna make people forget about 2 and 3 because boy, it makes me forget about Return more than anything.
Yeah, I was very disappointed when I saw this film. Um, I would love to have seen why did Alan always have a dirty shirt? Like, um, 2, I want to know more about, like, these characters. So, I kinda wanted, in, like, a almost a masochistic way, to see some follow-up, to know if they could have done a better job, if I could have found a way to make this Alan character likable if somebody else could have put their hands on the franchise. I really do think Felicity Rose got screwed over, um, like big time, because I do like Felicity, and she is someone that actually likes the horror genre, and she's very passionate about it.
But
She's
she
been in a
still
bunch of
does conventions till this day, and most of the pictures I see with people, she does the mouth from the
yeah,
original, the ending. It's
she's gorgeous.
iconic.
She's gorgeous.
I mean, the crazy thing is she's done a lot of films besides Sleepaway Camp, but if she had only done that one film, she still would be remembered in the pantheon of, horror villains just for that one film. It's crazy what one movie can do for your career.
It is. I mean, and she's done some good films and some not so good films. I know because I had I used to like do movie reviews for I get like sent, I'm sure you had this, sent codes to go to Vimeo and you watch the movie, it hasn't come out yet, and then you review it type thing. But I saw one that she did. It wasn't really well done. And at the time I was like, the best thing I could say as a reviewer was that this is a good enough story that it would be better if it's remade. that was my that was my that was my review at the time. But yeah, when I was writing, so for a short period of time, I wrote. I wrote for a company called Twisted Gate. They were like a comic book company. They were working. They were going into films. I wrote 5 scripts for them. One of them that was produced, which thank God is no longer out there because it was horrible. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. And I always said, and at the time, I think I'm not sure, it was on Facebook. It was like through one of those forums. I spoke, Miss Rose, and I was like, if I ever write something good, I want to write something with you in it. And I always thought, okay, because there are people that I liked, I liked Felicity Rose. I thought like she did really well, and it stuck with me. And this is like pre like internet where I can see, okay, this is what she looks like now or anything like that. I could just still picture from back in the Sleepaway Camp days. And I like Tiffany Shepis, another fantastic actress that I think does a lot. Whenever you see her in a movie, because she's the best part of it. She started with Trauma, but I wanted to work with both of them, and I ended up like moving away from like the writing aspect of it. I got burnt out, didn't want to do it anymore, and which is a shame because I really would like to work with both of those actresses. I thought would have been interesting, would have been fun. Make Sleepaway Camp 6.
Well, let me ask you this: let's Survivor. If you want to include it, you can. Let me get your ranking from top to bottom, and then I'll give you mine after years. Go start at the top and work your way down to the bottom.
All right, so in the number 1 spot, it is Sleepaway Camp 2. It's always been my favorite. Again, it's a soap opera connection. It's just a really good film. Pamela Springsteen really kind of makes it her own, and I love what she does with it. I love what Michael A. Simpson does with the film. And second place is the original Sleepaway Camp. I think that the first film has so much to love about it, and it is actually one of the better slashers that came in around 1983 era. Because go back and try and watch. I kid you guys not. Go back and try to watch Girls Night Out again, next to Sleepaway Camp. Massive difference in quality of filmmaking. And I own Girls Night Out. With number 3 spot, it's Sleepaway Camp 3, which I think is an absolutely fun, fantastic, underrated sequel. It's just a shame that the censors really screwed it over. Aside from that, I love it. The only negative for me is that some of the better actors and better characters in films are killed off way too early, while other characters that I didn't like so much lived. At least lived a bit longer. Next up, it is Return to Sleepaway Camp, because as much as it's a bad film, at least it is a film, and at least there's little tiny aspects of the film that I do enjoy. I can rewatch it again. The hardest one for me is Survivor. Survivor has a couple minutes with just all these clips in between, and it's not well edited together either, so it makes it even harder to watch. I can't watch Survivor. I tried watching it. I'm not gonna lie. I tried watching it this week. I couldn't get through. I was like fast forwarding. I was trying to get. I was going through, and I was going through slow. So I was, okay, here's like the original clips as opposed to stuff trying and missing stuff and going back. And I'm like, this is annoying. I hated Survivor. Miss Chambers did a great job playing Allison for the few seconds that she gets to play her. But that's my ranking. And I guess no, even before that, okay, Judy, which is badly acted, still goes above Survivor because at least Judy is a 15-minute story that has a beginning, a middle, and end. I dug that. So yeah, Survivor is way down below that.
For me, our number ones are the same. Unhappy Campers, huge body count, fun, silly, creative kills, good nudity, absolutely encapsulates the era. When people talk about late 80s horror slashers not being good, watch this film, watch Intruder, watch Blood Moon. I think the reputation is, let's compare it to the early 80s, which is not fair. This is number one, Unhappy Campers. That's why I chose it as the banner behind me, because I wanted to reflect that. Wait, there she is. Wait, where's she? There she is. She's, I love the casting. It didn't affect me at all that they changed Angela. I do give Teenage Wasteland, even with the MPAA messing with stuff, I still feel like the charm is there with Pamela Springsteen. It works because the films were shot back to back, so she looks pretty much the same except for the wig. There's not years that have gone by. The setting looks similar, if not the same, as far as the camp goes. They really captured the late 80s, really well. I mean, it does hurt that, the gore is not there as much. But, you got a lawnmower scene. You have some great stuff in there. So number 2 is Teenage Wasteland. The original is number 3, the one that holds, everybody kind of, I do feel like it's a good film that is slightly overrated for me. I get why people like it. It has some cool stuff, but I really feel if you take away that ending, that saves the film from being another generic slasher film with some good kills of that time. I mean, it's kind of like without that ending, it's another Mutilator, or it's another Scream for Help, or what. Just that's.
I love Mutilator.
I like it, but I kind of feel like that's a lower tier in the big scheme of slasher films. So I got 2, I got 3, I got 1. Return to Sleepaway Camp is a cinematic fart blower. It's awful. Even with some of the cool kills, they are absolutely outweighed by, as somebody who has way too much screen time, Alan is in the film. I mean, I would go back and watch it just to click and time it and see how much of the running time he's in the film, because he's the Jar Jar Binks of this film, and he's the lead. At least Jar Jar. And then the ending was the Barney Fife looking police officer walking around with the voice thing on the neck, and it's awful. It's
there was a mid-credit sequence where they show how she got the cockpit.
Okay, it's again, I wasn't going to go back and watch it because I still have post-traumatic stress disorder from years ago viewing it, and Survivor doesn't count to me. When you have to cut together scenes from 3 films that actually really happened into a film that wasn't complete because the producers went bankrupt, it's not canon. It's not part of the series, so I feel like it doesn't count. There's 4 Sleepaway Camp films to me. 2 is the best. 3, 1, Return. But you included, Survivor in yours. But we agree that our rankings are similar, not very different, not much.
No, I mean, like, in all honesty, like we kind of are on the same page when it comes to these films, I think. Like I go back and forth between like my ranking almost being exactly like yours. But it's just there's something about the the fact that they casted actual young people, that there were certain aspects of the film. There's a neat thing. So Felicity Rose wasn't doing the murders. She wouldn't do the murders in the film. She was like 14 at the time, 13, 14 at the time. And so the one that plays Ricky, her cousin, is the one that's actually doing the killings, and like on screen. So so basically, there's a sequence if you watch it, if you watch part one again, and there's a scene where kind of like the shadow of Angela is supposed to be in the doorway, or the shadow of the killer, but because it's cleaned up, you can see him with the wig on. So you go back and watch that, guys, you'll see. So because of it, one of the fan theories up from Sleepaway Camp is that Angela and her cousin were both killers, and they were both killed in the film. So we're doing Scream, like Climbing for Scream, right? Which is it's fun. Like, there's the neat thing about Sleepaway Camp and the franchise. It has such a wonderful like fan base, a wonderful cult following. That there's been so many like the fact that somebody went out and like made a short film with one of the actors, the fact that like they kind of like pushed Robert Hiltzik to make another movie, bad or not, that this will be something that happened. A lot of movies like they come and they go and that's it. This one had two sequels that in one was especially bested the original film, which in itself was considered classic. Sleepaway Camp 2 is always going to go down as one of my favorite and one of the most rewatchable slasher films, but not just rewatchable Sleepaway Camp movies. Sleepaway Camp 2 is one of the most rewatchable slasher films, period.
It's comfort food. It's just easy. It's like you sit at 11 o'clock at night and you have a drink or have some pizza or food, and you just it just makes you feel good. It just kind of like brings you back to a simpler time. You and I both graduated high school in 1989. So I graduated. Yes, I did. We're both equally as old, so people out there are aware of that. Aaron, your YouTube channel, let people know where they can find you.
Right now on Cult of Cinema, you can check it out there. I do a lot of like I do live stuff. I have people on. I've had Jason on. I have Jason on again. Malcolm, who's been doing a lot of the chatting here and being all like.
Thank you for people that's showing up and commenting. And I know Malcolm, he's kind of like a mainstay at your channel, and you guys have a good. You bounce off each other, different personalities. I think that works well.
It's been about a year since I met Malcolm, and we became really good friends. Like I've known you almost around the same like the time.
I think I've been I wasn't very in the comments a lot, but I've probably been watching your channel 3 or 4 years, probably when you were doing like a lot of the Vinegar Syndrome. That's how I connected.
When I was Mr. Vincent, probably when I started that.
I mean, you still do them, but yeah, I mean,
I wish I could more. It's just where I'm in Morocco now. I can't. I don't get as much now. Like for instance, when the announcements came up this month, I was unfortunately out of town. So, but I do talk a lot about Vinegar Syndrome, Severin, companies like that, because I grew up in that stuff, and that's my youth, is going into like video stores, and like same as you worked at video store. I would have loved to work at a video store, going to video stores and just like picking up these movies, going in and grabbing the Sleepaway Camp films, going in and grabbing like Madman or Terror Train stuff, and just like coming back and watching them and rewatching them, and then getting 2 VCRs and having a blank tape.
Do me a favor. I want to end the video before the outro, though. Can you put up the Blu-ray of the best movie in the series so that image could stay on? Can you leave up the Blu-ray of Unhappy Campers so people know we both chose this as our favorite film? Part 2, Unhappy Campers. Thank you, Aaron Pynn, for coming on. Let's have you back. We'll talk backstage about maybe another retrospective or something, because I love doing them and they never get old. It's it's always good to get different fans' point of views, and we don't always have to agree, but we all love horror. So thank you everybody for watching and commenting, and let me say goodbye to you. Take care, everybody. Thank you.